Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. Today we are going to be creating a dress that I have been very excited about and I have been also really looking forward to. I am creating a Cruella De Vil inspired look. So I am a what you would call Cruella De Vil enthusiast. I modeled my hair after her when I was on Project Runway. I loved the half black, half white look. I just loved that she was like such an over the top, like wild character. She is like excess everything. Obviously we don't like condone killing puppies or wearing fur, but we love a fashion designer, and obviously being like a small town gay kid growing up, watching Cruella De Vil was like it for me. So I mean, hence the jacket, everything I wear is black and white. So this seems super natural for me to just like want to do a Cruella De Vil look. Now I don't know how I feel about there being a secondary Cruella movie. I don't know what you could get from Emma Stone that you won't get from Glenn Close, but that is just me personally, like being somebody that stands like the original so hard, but maybe it'll pleasantly surprise me. Who knows? I'm here for it. I'm ready to live for it. The idea is I have a tuxedo jacket, very Mugler from the 90s. Think like if Naomi Campbell would like walk down the runway in something with crazy shoulders that drug the floor. That's the inspiration that I have in my mind. I'm also at the end of the video going to show you what it looks like on a model, which I never do. So today we get a little model action. So yeah, I'm super excited to share this with you. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to fabric shop. So I'm gonna get some fabrics and then we're gonna talk you through like what the fabrics are that we found. I have such a fabric shopping addiction. It's the way that they feel, the textures, the touches. It's like, ugh, a sensation overload. The black that I'm going to use for the shell of it has also got a rayon. It's got a nice, beautiful face to it. In the back of it is a crepe back. It has a great weight to it. And I'm going to line it with a rayon satin. And then I'm gonna pop in a little bit of this like white rayon satin for the lapels and stuff. And then the skirt fabric is this tinsel fabric, and it just has like such incredible movement. One of the things I love so much about Cruella De Vil is that she's like wildly insane and manages to look completely put together at all times. And maybe that's why I connected with her as a kid, but I definitely feel like that's my life right now. I have so many things going on at one time, and I'm always trying to keep my anxiety in check because I have a hard time doing that sometimes. I am such a perfectionist and my work takes so long to do, so I'm always just trying to like pump videos out and make things happen, and that's super hard to do sometimes. So keeping my mental health in check is always super important. May is Mental Health Month, and I wanted to thank our sponsor for this post, which is BetterHelp. They are bringing mental health care to everyone on an affordable level, which is super exciting. BetterHelp will assess your needs and help match you to your own therapist, and you can actually start communicating within 48 hours, which is pretty sick because finding your own therapist usually takes forever. And there's over 15,000 therapists in the network, so there's definitely going to be a match that is like perfect for you. It's also available worldwide, which is super fab. You can also message your therapist anytime and have a weekly face-to-face conversation with them. That's like no waiting rooms, that's not sitting in an office, it's not stuffy. You're not in like one of those like lounge chairs just like chilling, waiting for them to like say, You get to actually have a face-to-face conversation with somebody. It's so much more affordable than a regular therapist. Usually that's like a super expensive thing. This is not luxury, this is like affordable healthcare, mental health care for everyone. If you click the link below, you can log in to BetterHelp. It will allow you to go through this entire sign-up process. You fill in all the information, they get to know you, then they can pair you up with the right person to help you through whatever it is that you need help with. There is a special offer for all of the Gunnar Deathridge viewers. If you want to go to betterhelp.com/Gunnar, Gunnar, they're giving you 10% off your first month. Okay, now that we have our mental health in check, let's actually start the process of making Cruella De Vil. Also, make sure that you like and subscribe this video before we get into it. I want to make sure that I can like give you guys amazing content, get you through your weeks, make all kinds of magic. So like and subscribe. Okay, let's get Cruella started. Okay, so no Cruella look could ever be attempted without an incredible shoulder pad, especially when we're coming in with that Mugler reference. I found these shoulder pads in a downtown Los Angeles shop. They're super extreme, but I really liked the shape of them. They also like really hugged the mannequin's arm, so I went with it. Now I started laying out my style lines on the dress form. I like to cut blue tape, like painter's tape, into little slivers and then put them on the dress form. I use these lines to help me determine where I'm going to put the seams. It's also important that if you're going to have a shoulder pad in there that you already put it on the dress form and you draft over top of it so that your pattern can accommodate for it. I also like to map out where my lapels are going to go and where my secondary collar is kind of going to start. I really just use these lines to help me kind of formulate my pattern. Because I'm self-taught, I'm not formally trained, I kind of have my own way of going about doing this, but I'm a visual person and a visual learner, so this helps me a lot. Now I'm going to start draping the pattern over. I use a cotton muslin fabric. You can get it at Joann or any really fabric store. It's pretty inexpensive, and I also like to get a lightweight one so that I can see where the lines are underneath the dress form, and that way I can trace them out. When I do this, I pull the muslin really tight over the dress form and pin it so that it's got some counter tension in there, and then once it's flat on the dress form, kind of laying in the place where I want it to, that's when I trace over the muslin, and then that kind of maps out my pattern for me. Once I have done my draping, it's now time to perfect that pattern. I use this ruler from Plitz. I got this at Joann. You can also get it online, and most of the haberdashery stores will have it also. The word of the day is
haberdashery.
And I use this to kind of just really straighten out my lines and give everything a really nice curve. I can also check the lengths of things, so if a seam is going to connect to another seam, I make sure that they're the right length and they match up. I also just can kind of really get the shape correct with this, and then I can also go in and add my seam allowance. There are also different rulers that you can use to do this. The clear ones cannot really help you because they have a guide on them, and so you can add in your seam allowance. Now I'm just going to cut our muslin pattern out, and then I'm going to sew my mock-up together. I always suggest doing a mock-up, especially if you're new to sewing. You need to make sure that your pattern is going to fit right before you cut it out of fabric, because most of the time you cut that fabric up, it is a no-go afterwards, and if there's no more and you had your heart set on making it out of that piece, you want to make sure that you can use it correctly and get the product you want. I liked the way my mock-up fits, so it's now time for me to cut out my fabric. Also, let's take a moment to appreciate that I wore 2 different shirts buttoned together in the front to make a black and white look for y'all, because I like details, and this is a Cruella look, and I wanted to commit. Stabilizers and interfacings are one of my favorite things to use in garments. I think it's like the structure of any great building. It just helps hold everything up. And with this blazer, I want to have such beautiful structure in the lapels and in the high shoulders of the piece that these stabilizers are going to be key. I'm going to be using sew-in stabilizers because iron-on stabilizers I don't think are going to hold very well with the fabric. This black one is an iron-on, and I might use it underneath of the stabilizer that's sew-in so that it's not sticking to the outside of it. Sometimes when you iron on a stabilizer to the fabric and it gets a little stretch, it comes undone and it looks like a bubble, so we want to prevent that. So if we do that, I will just fuse it to the other side of the interfacing that is stitched in. After sewing the shell of the jacket together, I am going to press those seams, you guessed it, flat and beautiful, y'all. I know some people are so sick of me saying that, but if I don't say it, then people come for me, so we'll just keep it in there for now, but know that we're referring to seams and not bodies. All bodies are beautiful, seams are flat and beautiful. I'm adding some corset style lace-up features on the sides of the jacket, so I'm going to use this high shine satin, and I'm going to create these little loops that will be sewn into the side seams of the front and the back seams. These are just going to be there to kind of give the laces something to grab onto, and honestly, the end effect is really, really cool, and I'm glad that I added this detail in hindsight. Whenever I add details like this to a piece, I make sure that I'm pretty precise with it. At least I try to be. Maybe that's the self-taught designer in me coming out, but I always strive for perfection, even though I know it doesn't exist. So I mark everything out pretty evenly so that I've got a good measurement, and then I cut it. And then I also go over and I fold everything and I press them flat so that way when I sew them into the jacket, they look nice and uniform. As Mary Berry on the Great British Bake Off would say, like little soldiers.
Very nice.
I also made sure they were evenly spaced out on the jacket, so I just used my ruler and made little marks with pins. That way I could just insert those little strips perfectly. And here are what the corset loops look like sewn into the actual jacket. I'm really excited about it. I think it looks really sleek, and the finished product of this at the very end of this video is really sick. And now it's time to assemble the rest of the jacket, and that way I can start working on the sleeves, which is a whole other battle that I had to overcome. I am going to show you guys a little bit of how I made the sleeves for this jacket, but if you guys want a designated sleeve tutorial, I can definitely add one to my Patreon. To get my sleeve measurement and to draft it out, I measured the drop of the sleeve, which is the very top of the shoulder, all the way to underneath the armpit. I also measured the length and the width of the armhole itself, and then I wrote all of these down in my notebook. I made sure that I gathered all the measurements I think I might need when I'm drafting the pattern. Afterwards, I drafted the pattern, and then I actually cut it out and sewed it in. I wish I would have gotten a little bit more footage of this, but it was late, and I was just trying to get it done, so forgive me. I checked the fit of the collar, and it was a good fit. I did a good pattern on this, and then it was time to just cut that out and start stitching in the stabilizers in that to make sure that it would hold its shape correctly. This blazer is going to have like a peekaboo little white secondary lapel that sticks out. It's not quite like a second lapel, but it is just going to peek out of the seam. So I'm going to make these using this white satin that we talked about in the beginning of the video. And after they were finished, I pinned them onto the jacket, and then I started stitching them together. Then I could stitch the whole jacket to its lining, and then we kind of got some shape and we can kind of see what it's going to look like. When working with a jacket, I personally find the trickiest part of the whole entire process is sewing the lining to the sleeves. And this is what a finished one looks like. And I'm going to show you how I kind of made a little trick for my mind to do it. So I'll put the lining inside of the sleeve and I will just match up the underarm seams, and I'll go up in between the lining and the outer shell and make sure that I'm pinching the same spots on those two seams and pull them out right. And then I make sure that they're lined up again and I pin them all the way around the sleeve hole. After it's pinned, you're going to want to stitch all the way around the sleeve hole. Hopefully the visual of seeing this helps you. I could not find a great tutorial when I was trying to learn how to do this a couple years ago, so I think that having a visual reference really helps, and like I said, this is a tricky part of the process for some people, so hopefully it sticks. After you flipped it right side out, you're going to want to press everything. Make sure that you push the shoulder seams together up there so that you can pull that lining up into the sleeve a little bit so that it's not hanging out of the bottom of the sleeve. For details on this jacket, I added some black covered buttons. They're beautiful in velvet, and I also worked on the corset strings that go on the sides of the jacket. The bottom part of this jacket is actually a train, and it went to the floor and like dragged behind a little bit. I didn't get as much footage on this as I would have liked because it was so late and my lights stopped working, so the footage that I did get wasn't very great, but it is there and I can always do a tutorial on that later on if that's requested. The last step of the entire look was to make the skirt, which is going to be a separate video, but I do think it majorly added some drama that this look needed, and also the skirt itself on the jacket really helped with the look. My friend, makeup artist, and model Bethany Hood decided to be my personal Cruella De Vil, and honestly, I am living for it. If you guys like watching this come together, drop a comment below. Let me know what you guys would like to see next. I always love to hear from all of you, and I hope you loved watching my Cruella vision come to life today.